Good evening, everybody. Welcome into the Farm to Table Direct Show. Today, we are going to be joined by someone who embodies resilience and a can-do spirit despite ongoing challenges. Alicia Scherer, or Allie as we know her, founder of Scherer Homestead and author of Sourdough With Grace, joins us to share her journey, her love for sourdough, and her commitment to reclaiming health through real food. Allie, welcome into the show.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here tonight in my own house.
Right. Yes. So before we get started, I want to let everybody know that Allie's last name is pronounced Sheer, like the curtain. I have been saying Scherer for a long time, but it's actually Allie Sheer. So anyway, Allie, so glad that you agreed to join us and share your journey tonight. And speaking of that, can you share a little bit about your journey that you've been on from military life and even before up to this point that you became a homesteader, and also what led you to write a book about sourdough?
Yeah, definitely. Well, I appreciate you having me on tonight. And so my journey is one of unexpected adventures. I would say that each season has been bringing me to exactly where I feel like I've been meant to be. Um, and it started with a degree in mass communications and emphasizing in public relations. But after college, I faced a moral crisis. I was unable to find a job because I had really high ethical standards. I know.
Isn't that?
So at 20, I thought, what could be more ethical than joining the military? An idea that I chuckle at now.
Right.
Really, though, that's what I thought. And so, nonetheless, the military introduced me into a deep love for medicine. I thrived on educating patients and comforting them and transforming a typically cold and personal system into a warmer experience. And that's what I really enjoyed. I wanted to make a real difference in the military. And I earned a degree in health science, completed all my nursing prerequisites, and got accepted into the prestigious George Washington University. I was on track to commission as an officer and served 20 plus years. But that changed in 2022 when the military initiated a medical evaluation for my injuries and a wounded warrior program. So I was put in that wounded warrior program, and my role shifted from high speed military medicine, working in everywhere from the Naval Academy to Walter Reed to the president's office, all over, to now I was just managing my injuries and navigating the new journey ahead. At first, I didn't really know what that journey looked like for me at first. I was like, well, I've just loved medicine and I've loved helping people and I've loved food. And we had dreamed about starting a homestead when we retired, like in our 50s, way after the military. We were going to start a farm then. Well, I'm glad that we're doing it now instead of 50, because in 2023, we started our homestead. We bought 5 acres and we started laying it out. We built a garden, a chicken coop, fencing, and I started with dreams of feeding as much of the community as possible. And then I was humbled because of my health battles. But through it all, food has remained the constant. And we have had to adjust expectations and what our goals look like for homesteading, but food has really remained at the center of what we've been doing and healing at that. During COVID, I'll bring up a dirty subject. During COVID, actually, my eyes were opened to the food system's vulnerabilities, because while the grocery store struggled, the farmers had plenty. We lived in metropolitan DC. I was working at the time at the White House, and we would go to the grocery store and it was barren. The selection was trash. The produce was awful. And I was like, this is it. But I found out somehow, I don't even remember, I think Facebook. of all things, there was a local farm, and we drove an hour away. And I know that sounds like not a lot, or maybe a lot to some people, whatever. We drove an hour away every week to go pick up vegetables and meat and milk from a farm in rural Maryland. And when we got to that farm, there was plenty of food. There was plenty of meat. There was plenty of beautiful produce. The problem wasn't with the farm or our country as far as like us producing food. The problem was with the system,
Right.
and the manufacturing and the big food complex, right? And we were vulnerable at the time because we didn't know our farmers. We didn't have stores. And like most Americans, we weren't prepared. I laughed when people took a run on toilet paper, and I had to use
Yeah.
questionable toilet paper because I didn't take a run on toilet paper.
Yeah, that's
Sorry. I won't get us up on a toilet paper tangent or COVID, but it did
Yeah,
open my
okay.
eyes to what was going on with the food system. And it's a big part of my story because before that, I didn't realize what a problem we had.
that is the vulnerability that I think it did open up. I always laugh about the toilet paper caper. That's it just it I blew my mind that was the one thing that was everybody was panicking over.
That was our weakness.
I still have a case in my closet.
So you should just install a bidet, and then you wouldn't even have to worry about it.
Right, there we go.
There you go.
But anyway, well, I mean, you mentioned, the physical challenges and your health issues and everything. And we were talking pre-show, kind of some of the current stuff going on with that. And it's obviously, I mean, you kind of alluded to already, but how much that has shaped kind of your outlook on how you do things and on your work and that type of stuff.
Yeah. My physical challenges have become a really powerful reminder to slow down, to not take on too much, to stay deeply attuned to my limits, both physically and mentally. It's really a delicate balance, and I'm still learning to pursue what I love at a pace that doesn't trigger flare-ups for my conditions. And it really requires just an ongoing practice and a lot of grace.
Right. And that's, well, I think that is, patience. And I mean, we were talking before, and Jack Dyer's in with us, and he was in the military for years to himself, and how hard it is for us to slow down.
Yeah.
They don't teach you that.
They don't teach you that. And I'm very much a work in progress. And I would honestly say, for myself, I say to myself, and for anyone homesteading with health conditions, I'd say don't be discouraged. Just keep grace at the forefront and rest when you need to. That rest is valid. Rest is a valid form of work because you have to have that rest in order to keep pressing on and to give your best. So we can only do our best, and resting is valuable. And I don't really think it gets talked about enough. Right. And I know it sounds ironic because you're like, oh yeah, that's easy. Just rest, huh? But like actually resting, like put the phone away.
Oh yeah.
Burn the screens off. Do something that puts your mind at ease, whether it be, whatever that activity is for you.
Right. Yeah, it's that is the challenge. I know from a lot of people it is to put the screen down, and put the devices down. And I'm the worst at it, And if I'm on that device right to bedtime, I sleep like a terrible.
Oh, you're jacking yourself up with the blue light too.
And so it is a challenge, and taking that little time to kind of catch your breath and breathe, But well, that's good. Well, let's move right in. I mean, we're kind of we've advertised sourdough. Let's jump on.
Let's talk about sourdough.
Let's talk about sourdough,
and I'll let you and Keith.
Yeah,
let's talk about sourdough.
So I was
I'm always down
interested
to talk about sourdough.
Can you guys hear me? Can you guys
Yeah,
hear
we can
me?
hear you.
Okay, good. I had a technical difficulty over here. But anyway, getting into sourdough, after our conversation the other day, Allie, I was curious about it too, because you had mentioned a couple of things like it being really ancient, That was one of them,
Hmm.
and the gold rush portion, and how it it got its name, I guess, in that era. And so when I looked at it, it said as early, they've got examples of it as early as 3,700 BCE.
Hmm.
All right. And so I was looking at that, and then how it actually made its way into America, I guess, through San Francisco, which was um, the French had brought it over. Although I know that we had things like baking powder already by that time, I believe, but the sourdough began there, and then it went from there to the Klondike, the Russian Klondike. And even until this day, they still call the old timers sourdough for some reason.
Huh.
Yeah, it was interesting. So, digging a little deeper into it there, I was fascinated a little bit about the history. And um, what drew you to sourdough?
I love that you mentioned history, because
Yeah.
sourdough is like a piece of living history. I
Hmm.
love that it's both so ancient and so adaptable. People have been making sourdough for thousands of years, like you said, and each culture has its own twist on it. The Gold Rush era popularized it here in America, and ever since it's been a symbol of resourcefulness and tradition. What drew me to it was the idea of baking with just flour and water and a little patience. There's something so grounding in that simplicity and letting time and nature do the work. And then also, the starter. This is dehydrated starter.
Hmm.
So this right here is not active currently. This can be rehydrated with just water and time, and then it'll just multiply. It is really sustainable. So say that there was a run on yeast, or say that the
Hmm.
factory that made the yeast just stopped working one day. Well, it's not a problem with sourdough. You don't need commercial yeast. You just maintain and keep alive your own yeast, and you can use it as your will. You can pass down it to generations. You can keep it in this little jar for 20 years
Wow.
Right.
dehydrated. So the sustainability is unmatched.
I found it really fascinating too in that research, to where there were there were people who keeps family secrets about their particular batch, and they keep it running for generations upon generations that came back from great grandma. And I'm thinking, are you sure that's true? Because man, that's a lot of work. How do you do that without just wearing yourself out? Because it's not like you can just keep it there and it's going to last forever without feeding it, right? I think, as
Hmm.
I understand, you have to feed it occasionally, right?
You do have to feed it or it'll die.
Yeah.
It is a
Right.
living organism. But I mean, in this state, this can be kept on a shelf for 20 years and not be fed. And it
Uh,
still could be reactivated and be alive within a week
wow.
and
And so when
maintain
you
its
say,
original structure.
so does it have its yeast already set up in it also
Hmm.
after it's dehydrated, so you don't have to go through the fermentation process again?
So you have to reactivate it, and it just sort of is like the express lane for the fermentation process. So the active
Okay.
colonies of yeast are still present in the dehydrated sample. And that yeast colony is still biologically present in the new sourdough. So it is the same sourdough, if that makes sense.
Hmm.
There's a it's really interesting because it can get super sciencey or it can be really simple.
I'm going to jump in here. One, Dina Dyer said she's excited. She's got her starter brewing. So
Yes.
now Jack, her husband, he said, reckon how long we can keep a sourdough starter if we freeze dry it.
I have not tried to freeze dry a sourdough starter. So the thing about getting a sourdough starter dehydrated is if it's past a certain temperature, either cold or hot, it can kill the active yeast and bacteria that are within the starter. So I'm not sure what temperature the freeze dryer gets down to. I know that when I use my dehydrator, I have to make sure I bought a special dehydrator that went down to 90 degrees because it can't be above 90 degrees or else it kills off those yeasts and bacteria that we want to keep. So it's kind of tricky in that way. I'm not sure freeze drying it would work, depending on the temperature parameters.
It would be interesting.
Yeah, it sounds like a science project there, Jack. We can
Uh-huh.
put some in and find out.
Where's Mythbusters?
There you go.
I don't have a freeze dryer, so I can't test it out for you.
Yeah.
Jack has one.
Jack, yeah, they're master freeze dryers. They, so there's your science project, Jack. Just make sure Dina gets her first round of sourdough before you steal her starter to dehydrate it.
Just take like 50 grams and then just freeze dry that and then try to reconstitute it and see if it works.
There you go. Yeah. But anyway,
that would be, report back to us on that. I would be interested to know if that
I would too.
Jack and Dina. Yeah.
and so they can get their freeze dryer down to -40. So
one of the things that I know I asked you, Allie, in our pre-interview was it boring? Is sourdough boring? And your answer to me was it's anything but boring. Can you go into why that is?
Yes. I said that sourdough is anything but boring because it's endlessly creative. It's alive and constantly evolving, which means 2 loaves are never the same. That can be intimidating for some people, but it also can be really exciting. Sourdough is simple or as complex as you want. I like to tell people who have taken my class or talked to me about sourdough that sourdough really meets you where you are. You can either do sourdough and have it really complicated, or you can do it really simply. Either way, you're going to get bread. And I just think that that's beautiful. And it's a fun challenge every time you bake. And the flavor's on a whole different spectrum that you can explore just by changing how long you ferment it or adjusting the kitchen temperature. And so it's really fun to toy around with it. And the concoctions are interesting. That's why I'd say anything but boring. People have asked me in the past, they're like, do you ever get sick of sourdough since I've been doing this for a minute? They're like, do you get tired of it? And I'm like, no, I really don't. I haven't gotten sick of it.
Well, little side note, Jack's been chiming in over here about how much they've been eating all kinds, but he said Dina's starter came from you. So I think probably at Urban. Maybe.
Oh, sweet.
Yeah, probably got it at Urban, I would think. But that was I know they were there and you were there, so yeah. Probably.
Yes.
But,
right.
What is your favorite thing that you've made with the sourdough so far?
Yeah. I think I'm y'all.
Right. If you could answer that over there, Dina or
Jack.
Jack. Right. And have you had any problems with it? If so, what? Be sure to leave it over in the message if you guys have any questions. I just want to say that being that this is a live chat event and you're on here, this is the time to ask.
I'm down for questions.
Yeah. So she's down for questions, and we're open to finding out for ourselves, because every time we do a show with an expert like Allie, then we also learn. And so your questions may be ones that we don't have, but if you're afraid to ask it, then it may go unanswered. And so, please leave your questions for Allie over in the chat.
Well, Jack chimed in their favorite blueberry pancakes.
Ooh, one of my favorite things to make is pancakes on a sheet pan.
Interesting.
Blueberry pancakes on a sheet pan because I am a tired mom of 2. And so I put down parchment on the sheet pan and I layer the pancake and then I bake it. And then I just cut it into like cute little squares and nobody is any the wiser. But then I didn't stand over the stove for what feels like an eternity flipping pancakes.
Right. So Dina,
my hack.
That's good. And maybe if we've got time, you can get into maybe a favorite recipe and kind of talk somebody through one recipe, on live here tonight so that we kind of get an idea of what that process really is. But in the meantime, Dina, off air, I'll try to get y'all linked up. Dina said she would like to have your phone number. Okay.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Well,
And so,
sourdough pizza is really good too. He says.
Oh, sourdough pizza is so good.
you guys are making me hungry. It's
You know
not a
what's
good
my
idea to do
favorite
a show.
though? I'm not gonna lie. I've like loved it since I was a little girl. Is rosemary sourdough toasted with cream cheese. And that's my favorite. Like an olive oil rosemary loaf sliced and toasted with cream cheese on it. That's perfection to me.
Sounds good. I like sourdough a lot. You know, for the first time, I think we ate a sourdough donut at
Ooh.
Ozarks. Have you ever experimented with sourdough donuts?
I have not done a lot of donuts. I don't do a lot of fried food. So I have not tried a donut, but I bet it's really good.
It was. I will attest. It was very good. The one I wanted had chocolate icing on it,
Yeah,
but they were out by the time we
because
got.
like just
they-
because it's sourdough doesn't mean it can't be sweet. You can do
Right.
sweets with sourdough.
We were interviewing them, and they saved one. It was the very last donut that they had,
Right.
and so it was like, well, okay, we'll take what we got. And so
That's so sweet.
we cut it up into pieces so all of us could have a piece, and it was
Right. You can
Oh, I
check
love
out that
that.
video. You can check out that video when we were at Ozarks because we
gonna look
interviewed
at that.
them as a vendor. But I want to bring this up and let us address this for just a little bit. So Williams, Tamia,
Mia Williams.
is that right? I got my sourdough in June. I think it's dead. I'm so scared of it.
So, couple things. If you got it in June, has it been fed since June? Has it been in the fridge? Has it been on the counter? If it's been on the counter and it's not been fed, it's probably dead. If it's been in the fridge since June and not been fed, I would feed it and I would give it a few feedings and see if it doubles in size. If it doesn't double in size, then it's probably dead. If there is anything growing on top of it, it's probably dead. But otherwise, I would just go and try to feed it. When in doubt, feed it a couple of times and see what it does. It might be slow, just depending on how long it's sat or how long it's been fed. Those colonies are really hungry, and they're kind of like a marathon runner who hasn't been properly nourished and can't quite get to the finish line. It needs that Gatorade. It's in the fridge. Okay, so it's in the fridge since around June. It might be alive. I would give it a shot. I would feed it for like 3 or 4 days, or every 12 hours. Every 12 hours would really help increase its, what is the word? My 3-year-old is crying in the background because it's getting close to bedtime, so I'm slightly distracted. Sorry. He wants mommy. It's hard.
Yeah.
Daddy's gonna hold it down the best he can. It'll help the sourdough come alive. Hopefully it does. If it doesn't come alive, hit me up. I've got plenty of sourdough discard. I can get you a new starter.
So
I
speaking
always
of
tell
the
people
discard,
that who get one from me. I'm just like, it's okay if you kill it. Just come get me. I'll get you another one. Got to bring your own jar though.
so I had a
BYOJ.
question about your discard, because I did
Mhm.
read up a little bit about the discard and that you have to discard every time you are activating it to bake. Now, what do you do with the discard?
So discard is only taken out of the jar so that you don't run out of room in your jar. Or else it would just grow out. Hold on one second.
Okay. She said, "Thank you. I'm going to try."
Sorry.
Okay.
Can you ask me your question again?
Oh. discard. That's what he was talking about.
Yeah, about the discard. What can you do with the discard other than throw it away? I think because I've heard people saying that they make stuff out of discard, and I said, "What do you mean? I mean, it's just aren't you just like taking a portion of it and throwing it away because you don't want it to overexpand in the jar or something like that? Is that what you mean by discard?" Yeah.
So discard is so people have asked me that all the time. They're like, okay, what's the difference between starter and discard? And the only difference is there is none. They're the same thing. Discard is unfed starter, and starter is starter. There's just another term. There's a lot of terms for all these things, and sometimes that makes it confusing. But for the discard, it adds a probiotic benefit and also breaks down the gluten. It's not going to make a product rise as much as if it was fed, but it still makes it fluffy. It makes it chewy. It makes it tangy. So if I were to incorporate discard into a muffin recipe, that muffin recipe would have a little extra zest that it didn't have before it had discard incorporated into it. I'm going to apologize in advance. I think my toddler is coming for comfort.
It's okay. It's okay. Yeah, bring him on.
Friendly show.
It's a family friendly show. Poor guy. Yeah, this is normally his time with mommy. Yeah.
Like, he's like, I'm not having it. It's all right. You want to sit with me and talk? Do you want some of my water? Some mommy's water? No? Wow. Usually love my water. Mommy's water tastes better than his own water.
Yeah, of course.
It's like
mommy's everything tastes better.
Yeah, so discard also is great for poultry. It's a probiotic, and if I have too much, I also add it to my poultry scoop. And so something for the chickens.
Jack and them
Mommy's on the video. We can't cry so loud. It's so loud, nobody can hear. He's like, I don't care. I'm sorry, guys.
Okay, no, don't apologize.
It's my life.
Yeah, Jack and Dina was saying that they hot cast iron skillet, and that's how they make their pizza.
Yes, I've done that.
Yeah, and so. You had mentioned that when you started out, you wished that there was a class to help you learn sourdough more easily. Can you talk about the process of learning and your philosophy about that? Because I remember you said, well, what encouraged me or made me decide to do that is that I wished that when I was starting out in sourdough, I had somebody to teach me. So you said, I will become the teacher. And so, because it wasn't easy when you started out. You had a lot of failed attempts and learned a lot through the process, which I guess makes you uniquely qualified to write a book, right? And so, can you talk about your philosophy of learning and teaching?
Uniquely qualified is such a good way to put it. You're so sweet. I actually still remember calling one of my best friends when I was debating on teaching at first at the farm, and I was like, Alex, I don't know if I should teach. I have sucked at baking, and this has been miserable, and I've made so much bad bread, but I did figure this thing out, and I feel confident that I could develop a course to teach other people, and it won't suck as much as it did for me. And I was like, I had a little bit of like an imposter syndrome for a while. I was like, no, I'm not a professional. I'm not qualified. But then I realized maybe I was more qualified than I thought.
I want to do that.
You want me to get up? You need to go get some food.
Mommy.
You need to go get food with mommy. Did you eat your dinner? You ate your dinner. We had
Jack says hi too, Jack.
Well, mommy is talking, and I don't remember.
I want you to get and give me some food.
You need me to get you some food. Can Daddy get you some food? He's in the other room, waiting to assist. No? Okay.
Yeah.
You need me to. All right. Well, we'll get it in just a minute, okay? Can you hang on for just a minute?
I want to get.
Well, can you hang on for a minute, or you can go ask Dad?
I want you to get.
3-year-olds really don't care.
No,
And that's okay.
It's his world, and I'm just living in it.
that's it. We understand that. Yeah.
I'm a really hands-on learner, and I learned things very tactile, and I couldn't find a guide that broke it down in a way that made sense for me. I went through a lot of trial and error, and it was frustrating. I came close to giving up more than once, but I was determined to learn this skill, not only to reduce the chemical footprint in our home, but to nourish my family with real, wholesome bread. And that struggle turned into passion for teaching because I knew firsthand how challenging it could be without clear guidance. And I wanted to create something that would be more approachable, step by step, and take the guesswork out of it. And it's been really rewarding to share this skill. And every time I see someone's first successful loaf, it's reminded me why I pushed through with my own struggles. You're going to organize my desk? Oh, thanks. Dear.
Reorganize.
I needed it. I needed it. This place is a mess.
On the back. It needs to fix. But it needs to go in there.
Oh, man.
It'll be our top viewed show just because of that. Everybody loves the kids.
Oh, the meltdown toddler.
Yes.
But you have a cat, though.
Yeah, I
Oh,
got a
yeah,
cat.
that's Jack.
He's just needy. This is just Jack the cat. He's just a
Jack. Yeah.
Yeah. We call him Jack most of the time. But yeah.
I have a cat named Kitty Chesney.
Now, well, this one got his name because he has one eye that is bad. He's got 2 eyes, but it's real bad. And I called him One-Eyed Jack. And so it became Jack. And
Jack.
yeah, so he's our he's the one that'll jump up and get curious. Our other cat, she'll hide and run, but he gets curious.
Yeah. So for the sake of time and
Yep.
for our little buddy over there who needs mommy, I want to kind of cut to some of the chase here a little bit. And, you know, you've shared some strong views on today's, and this is the way you put it, industrial food complex and how it has transformed the American diet. Can you expand on what you mean by that?
Yes, I'm so glad we're going to talk about that. I have some strong thoughts about our industrial food complex. Essentially, the system is of large corporations that prioritize profit over quality, convenience, over nutrition, mass production, over sustainable practices. Over time, it's completely transformed the American diet, filling our grocery stores with more food-like substances, processed, shelf-stable foods loaded with chemicals and additives.
Right.
It's distanced us from real wholesome ingredients. And I think we're seeing the consequences in our health and our communities. We've gone from knowing where our food comes from and how it's made to relying on anonymous factory produced meals. And so I'm really passionate about reconnecting people to the roots of where their food comes from, whether it's through sourdough and homesteading or buying from local farms. Real food isn't just fuel. It's part of our culture, our health, our environment. And by taking control over what we eat, we can nourish ourselves in a way that's both healthier and more meaningful as well.
Yeah. So Jack said she is absolutely spot on, and we couldn't agree more. And I think, especially in the homestead community, I think a lot of us share that sentiment about food. And the more I learn about it, the more I realize that, as you put it, the industrial food complex is probably largely the reason that the health in America is not so good, right? Other cultures have a very other cultures have better diets than the American people do, and so our industrial food complex is definitely alive and well here.
No, okay.
So, um,
Well, well, I was going to say, I was going to go, you said this the other day, and about convenience, giving up, and you even mentioned it just now, giving up convenience. The convenience is what's good for us.
Mhm.
That you'd mentioned the other day about sick care rather than health care,
Yeah.
yeah.
and how do you think sourdough and like traditional food practices can reverse that trend?
So our culture of convenience has really led us into what I call the sick care system, where we treat symptoms instead of addressing the root causes of poor health. The system is built to keep people not truly well. It's designed to keep people from dying. While we've drifted away from nourishing foods, our health suffers. That's where sourdough and traditional food practices come in. It's about whole ingredients, mindful preparation, and connection to what we're putting in our bodies. Sourdough, for example, is naturally fermented, which it breaks down the gluten and other compounds that make bread easier to digest. It isn't just about the bread. It's about a larger return to foods that are made thoughtfully and slowly. Traditional food practices encourage us to slow down. And that's a lot of what I've been talking about was the slow down aspect. But it's just so important to know what we're eating and to prepare it in a way that supports our health, not just our hunger. It's about creating a lifestyle that shifts and promotes wellness rather than just managing symptoms.
So, just out of curiosity, I've read a book that talks about that our wheat today is not the same as the wheat decades ago.
Yeah.
And have you delved into the source of the wheat that the flour has and any of that?
There is a really good documentary out there. I would highly suggest it to anybody who's food conscious. I believe it's called Seed, the Untold Story. And it's a very in-depth documentary about the process of the genetic modification and manipulation of our natural world and the food that we eat. We are losing rapidly varieties of food.
Mm-hmm.
Seriously. There are seed banks who are keeping seeds under protection because a lot of our food sources are actually in danger of becoming extinct because of genetic modification and the urbanization, like the mass production of farming. When there's 4 varieties of something that's mass produced, whenever there was 400 varieties before.
Right.
Blown up example, nothing specific, but yes, Icorn is a good wheat. And there's
Okay.
other good wheats,
Uh-huh.
There is even a producer here in Oklahoma who has regenerative practices, who doesn't use GMO wheat, and you can get wheat berries from them and you can mill it yourself, or you can buy it already ground. And there are more and more people like that who are popping up across the country, and I'm very excited about that movement.
Yeah, that's good. So let me be clear. We almost lost it. Does that mean that we haven't lost good wheat completely?
No, I don't think we've lost wheat. I'm not a wheat farmer
Yeah.
by trade, but I'm a wheat connoisseur, and I believe that there is good wheat out there.
Okay, that's good because some of the things I heard something about dwarf wheat, I think it was, and that
Hold on.
that it has been pinned to a lot of different health problems that that America faces and maybe the world, and we became, and the other thing that makes me curious about this is we became the bread basket of the world, right? Did we do that based on the other kind of wheat that's not so healthy for us? Do you follow that particular question that if we're the health basket of the world, which I was proud of for a long time, and now I'm thinking, well, has that caused a lot of like health issues because of our farming techniques and our GMO seeds and the wheat crops that we produce in such mass? Has that led to the degenerative health in people?
You know, I would question who calls us the health, you know,
I think you call it the bread basket was originally the
Bread basket,
bread
right?
basket, right? Because I
Right.
don't think America is the pinnacle of health right now. I think we have some of the most corrupt restrictions on food policy and education um, currently. And we're just openly poisoning people and pretending to treat it. But that's a conversation for a whole nother day.
Yeah.
It's we're putting there's food like substances with very little monitoring. There's food that's sold here in the United States that's illegal in many other countries.
hmm
Like why is it okay if they eat it in England?
right.
But Kellogg's can sell it to them, but they can sell it to us with all the other crap in it.
Right.
Yeah. That's a good
It's
question.
it's not acceptable. And the sooner I feel like that America stops accepting these subpar products, the sooner we can regain our health as well.
Right.
You know, I know that we can't all do it overnight, but the more that we can do for ourselves, you know, and the more that we focus on whole ingredients and we choose one thing that we love to make ourselves, like bread or broth or even something as simple as salad dressing. Look at the ingredients on your salad dressing that you buy in a bottle and you'll be like, what
Don't do that to me.
in that?
Don't
Or
do
if
that
it's
to me.
genetically modified, or that it contains soy, or that it contains dyes. Why is there dye in dressing?
Right.
Anyways, sorry, I'm gonna stop being crazy.
No,
But these small
That's
steps
right.
are really powerful because they bring you closer to real nourishing food without feeling overwhelming.
Yeah.
I also tell people who are starting out to try sourcing ingredients locally if you can. Farmers markets, co-ops, local farms, if you're lucky enough to have them nearby, fresh seasonal produce and quality meats or dairies make a huge difference, not only in flavor but nutritional value, because you're reducing your food miles. Your food is more nutrient dense. It's healthier for you the closer you get it to your home.
Right.
It's amazing. And you support your local community. Sometimes, I know this sounds silly, but in a way, I just try to see how much on our plate can we get locally? How
Right.
much in our family's diet can we get locally? We don't buy our meat from the store anymore. We buy it from local farms, and my freezers are full. I can up meats for quick, easy meals, and I've got those in the pantry as well. That's one idea. You can buy a half a pig, a quarter of a pig. Some people even do fourth cows. I've seen.
Right.
You don't even have to get a half a cow these days if you don't have that much freezer space. And people are like, oh, I don't have freezer space. And that's where pressure canning comes into play. You can put it all in a cabinet or under your bed.
That's
Anyway.
true.
That's funny.
Yeah.
I still remember when we moved my grandmother, when she moved to the nursing home and we were cleaning out her trailer, there were canned jars of stuff under her bed that had been there for ever. There was no way it was good. I mean, there's no way. But she just would not get rid of it. And she had that Depression era.
Yeah, she's like, I gotta put that away for later.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Don't touch
and we thought she was crazy.
Yeah. Apparently.
Apparently she wasn't. We were.
I know. I wish I could go back and talk to my Depression era great grandma. Her name was Amber, and I actually name a lot of my sourdough. My sourdough is named after her because she was like an OG homesteader before that was coined. People called themselves homesteader. She had a big garden. She raised her own chickens. She was a nurse. She actually was the sweetest woman. And I think about her a lot on the homestead. And I'm like, man, if I could ask you some things. Because she had all these skills. And then my grandma, growing up in the 70s, was like, I'm not doing any of that. Forget it all. So we lost them. And then my mom didn't have them. That was the like frozen dinner, throw them at your kids generation. And then there's us, me, a millennial, not speaking for everybody. So there's a lot of other us, right?
Yeah.
But 2 generations ago before me was a homesteader.
Right.
But 2 generations know nothing about anything about self-sufficiency.
Right.
And I'm like, well, how do we lose it so quickly? And it was almost like it was planned.
Well,
Right.
We lost
Very much.
our power so fast.
very much. I just, that's, you brought that up as something I read, that it was like, not that many years ago, people grew their own food, knew how to do all these things. And yeah, in less than 70 years, it's all been lost. And, but you brought up your family, and I mean, your cultural background is unique and rich. You brought up your Texas grandmother and your Iranian grandfather, and how it kind of exposed you to a lot of different kinds of food and a lot of different kinds of cooking. So, how did this influence your understanding of food health?
So my grandparents raised me, for the most part. My grandpa is from Iran, and my grandma is from Texas. My grandma could not cook, and we would joke and call her Miss Burns. We love her. She is talented in many other ways, but cooking was not one of them growing up. So my grandpa, he was the head cook, and a lot of the food that we ate was Iranian. The only American meals I can remember eating was spaghetti and apple pie. And everything else was mostly rice dishes, meat dishes, very simple whole ingredients, vegetables that are chopped up and roasted, yogurt sauces, some breads and nuts and fruits and pickled vegetables and a variety of different things and spices. Not like the typical American diet, right? Especially growing up in Texas. Texas is very heavy on potatoes and meat, and very much like my husband, who's from Ohio, likes to eat. But that Mediterranean influence on my early life really has still carried over how I ate as an adult and a young person, because I crave vegetables and meat and whole foods. And I didn't grow up eating a lot of junk and a lot of fast food, so I didn't really have as strong of a craving for it. So I feel like once you've had really good food, it ruins you. To just keep having good food.
Yeah. So
or you have to suck it up, right?
Yeah. So we've got about, roughly 12 minutes left. I want to do something here to where, and I know I'm like I said, sometimes we go off the rail here.
That's it.
But what I would like for you to do is maybe share with people, how to get started with it, and maybe give us like a little sample of, how you get your starters going.
Well, so for a starter, I like to tell people that a good analogy for starting your own starter from scratch, when you haven't done sourdough before, is kind of like jumping in and running a marathon before doing a 5K, because it's a lot of pressure all at once, and it's a lot of consistent demand all at once, which for most people, including myself, is really hard to meet, right? And that's where it's like we get it started and we're like, oh my God, it's so hard to keep this alive. I have to feed it every day for 2 weeks. And then they quit. And then they never make the bread. And then they make one loaf of bread and it doesn't turn out like they wanted to. And so they stop. And something small that helps is getting like a dehydrated starter, and it breaks it down to rehydrating that in 1 week. Or getting it hydrated from a friend that's already started locally, and then there's no time to build it up. You can start the next day after you feed it. And so I think that's really, I know it sounds silly, but that's one way I feel like is a great tip to jumpstart whenever you're doing sourdough. When I'm getting ready to actually bake, obviously, if it is something that needs to rise a lot, like cinnamon rolls or bread or focaccia or anything that's nice and big and fluffy, it's going to be like a fed starter. But if it is something that is traditionally not as risen, like a muffin or a brownie. Oh my God, sourdough discard brownies. That sounds so good right now.
Stop it, Allie.
No, okay, I'm gonna go on a quick tangent, but sourdough discard brownies are like the perfect combination of chewy and cakey.
Uh-huh.
That like, oh, they're perfect. Like, because there's people who are like team cakey brownie and team chewy brownie, but both is where it's at.
Yeah.
The little cakey and a little chewy, man.
Yeah. So talk to us a little bit about your book, because I know we're running out of time here. And tell us about the philosophy of your book, and maybe, show it off. Now, I did read her book, and there's a lot of good recipes in there. Not only does it tell you, how to start your sourdough, but it also talks about the different things, how her recipes that she uses whenever she's making different things. And also wanted to, do a little quote that I found interesting in your book, which was bread baking is like one of those almost hypnotic businesses, like a dancer from some ancient ceremony. That's so like philosophical. So do you find that sourdough bread is like philosophical?
Oh yeah, it's very philosophical. I
Yeah.
think in the way that it's sort of a philosophy for life, right?
Yeah.
It's resilient, it's sustainable, it's ever going, it needs to be fed to be sustained. It just keeps going.
And how does it make you feel, like knowing that you did that yourself?
Oh man. I always personally feel like a magician. Like anytime I show up with bread or anything, or make cinnamon rolls or do anything, I'm like, voila!
Voila.
I'm like a baking magician. And
Yeah.
I've been doing it for a while. And I still
Yeah.
feel like a magician every time. I'm like, yeah, I did it.
Yeah. So do you feel like after doing it for a while, your success ratio, do you ever fail again?
Yes, I do.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
So,
God, you're going to ask me that.
well, I mean,
So,
come on, that's reality, right? I mean,
oh, it feels so hard sometimes. Actually,
yeah.
whenever I published Sourdough with Grace, when we had the Urban Okie Homestead Expo,
Yeah.
I got up at 4 a.m. and baked a loaf of bread. And I had the oven preheated for 500 degrees. And I never lowered it after that. And then I continued to bake it on as normal. Well, it was too hot. And it ruined the loaf of bread. And it was the ugliest loaf of bread that I've ever baked. And I was like, oh, well, now I feel like an imposter. I'm going to go speak about sourdough, about a book that I wrote, and I have an ugly loaf of bread. Who does that?
Right.
Who? I was a little bit upset.
Well, I bring that up because I want to bring people a little bit into the reality of sourdough. I'm just learning about it. And like I said, I was really fascinated at the quote. I'm thinking this is so philosophical, and that that you can really fail. But are you at the point that you can say, okay, now I know why I failed.
Oh, yeah.
And then I do it again and everything is okay. I mean,
and if you fail, you just make croutons.
You make croutons. There you go.
Well, you just make croutons.
You learned it right here, folks, what to do with failed sourdough bread. You make croutons.
I need to add that recipe next time I update my book. I thought of
Yeah.
that recently and was like, shit. Sorry.
And
I forgot to put croutons in here, so I need to
and
update it.
donuts. And donuts, Allie.
I haven't even made
You
donuts.
got to try that, okay?
Experiment first.
That was like that they had it a truck, a food truck. They were doing, of course, starting it at home and doing so much of it at home, and bringing it though. But we were up there for 2 days and they ran completely out both days.
Oh man,
I bet. But
It was-
man, the work to make all that donut dough.
And they do that every day. that they have a donut shop that's sourdough
But
donuts.
I bet sourdough donuts though. Man, now I want to try it.
To die for, right?
If I try it, I'll take a video and I'll tag you guys, and I'll
Yeah,
say you made me do it.
You did hear her military background slip out. Yeah.
Is that what we call that?
What?
Sorry, there's that military background. They heard your military background slip out
Oh,
when you said crap, but not that word. Anyway, no.
and
But
I thought it was
anyway,
being so good. Actually, my son's first curse word was because of me.
Oops.
oh,
I thought it was going to be my husband, who's also a veteran. My
Very
husband's an Army veteran. I'm a Navy veteran. My grandparents are both Air Force veterans. And yeah, my 3-year-old's first cuss word was because of me. And I was like, oh, it's not bad. I'm not a very good mom sometimes. I think I'll watch my mouth.
we weren't born parents, right? Okay. We learn as we go. But
I need the manual.
the SOP.
Mine wasn't
right?
dropped off.
Yeah.
I was missing it.
Yeah. So where can people find you, and where can people get your book? Before we get started, I will tell you that it is in the link below. I've already put it down there conveniently for you. And I really highly recommend getting the physical copy so that you can grab it at any time. Keep it in your shelf, keep it in your drawer, wherever you keep your cookbooks and recipes. And but if you could share with them where they can find you, Allie, and some of the things that you participate in, because I met you personally at an OLAC conference. And if you could just share that with everyone.
Yeah, so I am on Facebook at Scherer Homestead, and I'm on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube. I do make a lot of TikTok videos with recipes. I think that has been the most consistent place that I've been posting recipe videos on the if you want to know. I have a video of one of my most famous sourdough biscuit recipes on my TikTok, and it's kind of delicious. If you need biscuits and gravy for next weekend, it's a good recipe.
There you go.
I am going to be putting a pause on events and some in-person stuff as I tackle some health challenges. I have had some involvement with the Oklahoma Local Collaborative and tried to be at farmers markets and various other places, but right now we've got some stuff going on, and I'm going to be a lot more home-based. So there might be some more video-based stuff and other social media-based. My in-person is going to be pretty low for a while.
Right.
Yeah. So, and I believe we can find your book on Amazon, right?
Yes, it is on Amazon.
Okay, it's on Amazon. Is it sold
you can get
anywhere
it in
else?
2 days if you have Amazon Prime.
Yeah. Who don't, right? Anyway,
Right.
yeah. So with that, I'm gonna kind of get you wrapped up and out of here as we promised, so you can get little man in bed.
Well,
We got a couple of got a couple of minutes left here, and what I want to do, Allie, is first of all, say thank you for agreeing to come on the show and share with us your expertise. And we all, and in the circuit, we generally will run into each other, I'm sure, somewhere in the circuit. And we look forward to seeing you each and every time that we're out there. And
I look forward to seeing you.
Yeah. And we invite you to come be a part of, not just the Farm to Table, but we have a circle of friends that are out there. One of them is Greg Duncan and the Dyer Family Farms, and several, others that we have. And I know, and I'm just pitching it out there, that if you ever want to get involved with, some of the other, homesteaders that are out there on social media, and let us know how everything's going with you. You can do that on Dyer Family Farms Sunday night at 7. And there are several others out there that go live. And once you get in, though, with Jack Dyer and Dina Dyer, you can find a lot of different places out there. So there, I pitched also Jack and Homestead Rendezvous. Thank you for mentioning that, Jack. we just got finished with the Oklahoma Homestead Rendezvous, and we consider it a success. And we hope that maybe you can come out and teach sourdough at some point in the future at the Rendezvous in McAllister, Oklahoma.
That would be awesome.
Yeah.
Great. So we'll reach out to you, and hopefully you'll stay in touch with us and
Yes,
and
definitely.
let us know your journey. Because we're aware, of what's going on with you, and we look forward to seeing how you overcome those obstacles in your health journey.
Thank you.
I think that is a really important thing, not just for you, but for the social media community at large. And so, with that being said, I'm going to switch over to something else real quick before we turn out. Everyone, we are going to be at the
You're going to like
Road
this, Sally.
Food Conference. We're going to be at the Road Food Conference, providing nothing falls apart at the election. And that's going to be on November, I believe, the 9th, on a Saturday. And this is something that's put on by John Moody and our friend Joel Salatin. Thank you.
Yeah.
And we're going to be down there. We're not bringing cameras this time, but we are going to go down there and just see everybody and just kind of rub elbows with the people there and to learn. And then,
Absolutely.
and then that following Tuesday, most likely, that's what our show is going to be about then. We hope that everybody out there will stay tuned. We thank everybody in the chat for joining us tonight and chiming in as usual. We love seeing all of y'all. And something that right now is going to be near and dear to my heart, and my brother had to kind of talk me off the ledge a little bit earlier today. And we won't go there. But people, vote. It's coming up this next Tuesday. Vote early. I started to say vote early, vote often, but don't do that. Just vote once. But anyway, where are you going to be? Oh, Jack's asking that. That's going to be in Dallas, Fort Worth. You can look under the Road Food Conference, and I think it's on their website about Road Food Conference, and you can check out the where and the when and all that. But it's on a Saturday. We're just going to be. Thank you for putting that out there, bro, at Met Church in Dallas, Fort Worth. And so, anyway, with that being said, vote your conscience, people. Vote your conscience. It's really important. I can't put a big enough exclamation point on that. And for those of you who say, I'm just going to let God handle everything, that's fine. But we do also have a duty. And if we stand down in important times like this, as they say, we'll either hang together or we'll hang separately. Okay. So anyway, bro.
Yeah.
Anything you want to add to it?
It's crazy that we live in a world that we have a conference about road food.
I'm sorry. I was just looking at one of the graphics on their conference page, and it was so funny.
They are
bad boys of food.
Bad boys of food. That's it. It's about growing. It's about how to have food and how to do things outside of the system.
I love that.
All the stuff, and they've done this now for a few years, and they do it different locations each year. And this year it's in Dallas, which just happens to be close enough to go.
That's awesome.
It's a 3-day event, but Saturdays today we're choosing to go. They have single day to go all 3 days. You have to buy like the VIP package, and they do like processing, and they have meat. I mean, it's crazy all the stuff that is involved in that, but it's also comes at a price. But we we were able to go down. Once we heard about it, it's like, yeah, and who was behind it and who all was involved in it. It's like, yep, we got to be there. And so, so if you can make it to Dallas on the 9th or one of those days, check out, like I said, go to Road Food Conference, just search it. It'll bring it up, and, you can click in on there and see what the ticketing options are and that type of thing, and what might work best for your schedule. But anyway, that's where we're going to be. Man,
I can't wait to hear about that.
Yeah, I'm excited to go. It's going to be a long day, but it's going to be a fun and rewarding day.
I'm going to have to live vicariously through you.
Okay.
But Good job. But again, as Bro said, thanks everybody for joining in and chat tonight. Thanks everybody for taking in and watching. If you haven't already, please hit the like, please hit the subscribe, hit the share, hit all those buttons that help us get the word out. It is not to grow our channel as per se, it is to get the reach out and get more people out there. We are climbing each and every day, every week. The numbers do climb, and it's all because of y'all guys. So we appreciate it. And yes, don't forget to tune in to Jack and them on Sunday if you get a chance. Diary Family Farm live, and there's a whole lot of other stuff you can find out about Jack if you get over there. But anyway, so again, Allie, thanks for that. Good night, Jack, Dana. It is, the fact that you and your husband veterans, veteran-owned, veteran homestead, and if y'all guys will follow her, go check out her channel. You'll get a lot of information on a lot of things, and kind of follow her on her journey and what they're doing and what they got coming up. But anyway, folks, we're going to wrap this up, get her so she can go put her toddler to bed, and we can get ourselves headed that direction as well. But anyway, we will not, I think we had discussed, Bro, we were not going to do a show next Tuesday because of the election. It just drowned us out. So we may pop on some lives, or we may just throw one in earlier or something before that. But so our next actual scheduled Tuesday will be, 10th, 11th, 12th, whatever that day is. Anyway, let me pull my calendar up. Will be the, Tuesday the 12th, 12th of November. So we will be recapping the Rogue Food Conference when we come back in on that. And looking forward to some things. There's already dates starting to pop out with things coming up for 2025. So we'll try to get in all that. And yes, thank you, Dina. Thank you, Allie. She says, yep.
Thank you. Thank you for tuning in. I appreciate you.
And anyway, yeah, we're talking about your home gym there, Jack. Yeah. Anyway, Jack's good about a lot of things. But anyway, I don't think either one of us go to the gym. But anyway, no, seriously, guys, appreciate you tuning in. We're going to sign this off, Allie. What we always do at the end of every show is we will say, prepare for the unexpected and keep it local. Now, because me and Key, because we're remote like we are, if we all three try to talk at the same time, it just cancels out and becomes garbled noise. So usually I'll start it off with prepare for the unexpected, and then Keith will close it out on the other end of that. But guys, we appreciate you again, and I appreciate everybody out there. Remember, our hashtag is Stronger Together. It takes the community. It takes us all. There's no individuals making it on their own. It does take the community, and continue to pray for our country in this upcoming week and months between now and that. And maybe one day, if me and Keith are froggy, we'll do a show about some of the stuff we were talking about today. But probably not. There you go. But anyway, so as always, everybody be blessed, be kind to others, and be a blessing in somebody's life. And so, as always, at the end of every show here at the Farm to Table Direct Show, prepare for the unexpected and
keep it local.
Good night, everybody.
Goodness.